Alright, so let's now check out how to create this electric piano sound using Native Instruments FM8. So I'm going to start from scratch, go to File here and select New Sound, and we get this very clean, pure sine wave tone. You'll see in the Expert tab, we just have this one operator active, and it's set to a sine wave. Alright, let's shape its envelope. I wanted to have a very long decay, so I'm going to set it to about 12 seconds. I'm clicking and dragging the background here. And we can see here we have 12 seconds over there. So I'm going to drag it down here. A little bit of release, and I want the sustain to be at the lowest. Alright, so that's good. Now let's introduce some FM. I'm going to activate E here, and now let's make it modulate F. Let's say about 40, the modulation amount. Let's go into E and adjust its envelope as well. Similar shape, a little bit of release, and decay about 12 seconds. I'm going to bring the level down here. This is the main output of the carrier, set at 50, because we're going to be adding more elements. Let's activate operator D over here, and let's send it to the output as well. Maybe a bit quieter at about 40 something, say 47. Similar idea, long decay, 12 seconds, a little bit of release. Now I do want to change up the ratio and offset a little bit. So maybe ratio can go down a little bit, and offset can also go down a little bit. Maybe around -9 something. Say, yeah, -0.91. So F is at 1, D is slightly out of tune. So this will create that chorusing-like effect. Alright, let's do the same with modulation like we did here with E. Let's right click to activate C, and let's modulate D. I'll set it to be slightly lower. Same shape here again. Long decay, a little bit of release, ending at 12 seconds. Alright, now if I turn off F, and we just listen to this, sounds very similar, but let's add a little bit of feedback here. Just thicken up the sound a little bit. If I exaggerate this, you see what it does there? So I just want a wee bit of that. Alright, let's activate F again, so we hear both the carriers. Nice, a little bit of chorusing effect going on there. Now, the key element in creating an electric piano sound is to create the bell sound. So I'm going to activate B here, send it to the output, maybe a bit quieter than the other two. And let's check out its envelope. So I want this to be a bit shorter, maybe half, so about 6 seconds. Let's do a little bit of offset on the ratio here, or detuning on the ratio, and maybe even a little bit of offset here. Not too much, because it will then sound out of tune. So let's say 0.36. I'm going to modulate B with A. Let's do about 20 for modulation amount. And now let's change the ratio. Up to this point, we haven't touched the ratio values as much. Just a little bit on D and B just to create that detuning effect. But now on A, I'm going to set this to a very high value. Let's go somewhere in the 20s. Let's say 26. Hear that bright, harsh sound? Now I want this, but just for a brief moment. So I'm going to bring the envelope down less than a second. So this is like 0.2. So that simulates the attack portion of the electric piano. And now it sounds a lot more realistic. Alright, now another thing we need to do is to make the sound a bit more velocity sensitive, a bit more dynamic. So if I just stop the sequence here, we just play manually. You'll notice that if I play gently or if I strike the key harder, it doesn't make a difference. There is no velocity sensitivity. So let's click on operators here and introduce some velocity sensitivity. Specifically on the modulators, so E, C, and A. So this is velocity sensitivity. I'm going to crank it up all the way close to the maximum. So if I strike a key gently, it's a bit more mellow. You don't get that brightness as much. But if I strike it harder, you hear it a lot more. Let's also introduce some velocity sensitivity into the volume of the sound. So all the carriers here, F, D, and B. So some velocity sensitivity is going to just change the overall volume. So if I strike softer, we hear a softer sound. If I strike harder, we hear a louder sound. And of course, the brightness is also changing. All right, now some of that brightness is a bit too harsh, so we can key scale it. So let's say A specifically, I want to key scale this down. So as we play higher notes, the level for A is going to get quieter. Let's do the same for C. Going to C here, bring this down. If it's a bit too much in terms of the velocity sensitivity, we can always tone it down. Alright, I think that works. Now, we pretty much have the sound, but we can tweak it a little bit by going into the master section and specifically thicken up the sound by making use of unison. So I'll set this to 2 voices, crank up the detune, and also spread the 2 voices. If you detune it too much, it sounds a bit too out of tune. But somewhere around the halfway mark is a nice sweet spot. Let's also introduce some effects. Maybe the phaser. I'll tone down the dry wet here a bit. How about a chorus as well? Tone down the dry wet, increase some mod depth, reduce the mod rate, increase some feedback. Now we're getting that nice chorusing effect on the electric piano. And lastly, some reverb. And that's pretty much it. Let's hear this with the kick drum. So that's how you can recreate the Ungodly Hour electric piano sound. I hope you found that helpful. Please stay tuned for more.